Hello and welcome to the show. Modern day DTM cars are some, well, pretty damn fast pieces of machinery. They are quite different to, well, the sort of touring cars that we see here in Britain. They are mighty quick, and in fact, within the next couple of years, they're going to be merging with the Japanese Super GT Championship. These are near enough full-on silhouette race cars. I think from what I was reading, the only thing they share with their road-going counterpart is the roof. I'm not entirely sure even that was correct. So there's very little Audi or BMW or Mercedes actually in the cars. They are full-on silhouette cars, which does make them very, very fast indeed. However, I can't help but feel, in terms of sort of outright touring cars, I mean, these are much closer to GT cars, much closer to prototype cars than they are, I would personally say, to your normal touring cars. And I still can't help but think, when somebody says DTM, or when someone's talking about DTM and so on, I can't help but think of the kind of 90s cars. The Mercedes 190e, the BMW M3, and so on. This, I wouldn't perhaps say a golden era. I don't know enough about DTM to know this, but when somebody says DTM, these are the kind of cars that I think about. And again, these vehicles were fantastic. I mean, this was kind of at the time, you know, sort of the Group A touring cars at the time that in England we were having the Super Tourers. These were what I tend to think of as your touring cars. Now, these days in England we continue to have this sort of style of touring car, and it did kind of get me thinking, what if DTM hadn't gone aero mad? What if it hadn't gone down the silhouette race car route? What if it had stuck more to this Group A style, more to these, you know, fairly extensively modified road-going cars, but not quite onto the full-on silhouette version. So naturally, I had to go and build some. Of course, we are limited a little bit by what we have available to us in Forza when it comes to building up the cars. For example, I'm using an Audi RS5 that is perhaps a little bit old. We don't have the new RS5 to play around with. I have the BMW M4, the Mercedes C63. I also, of course, have a few oddballs. The Alfa Romeo Giulia, for example. Well, Alfa Romeo did run in the DTM with the 155. It kind of dominated the series for a little while. So the Giulia makes sense as an inclusion. I also decided to stick in the Kia Stinger and the Volvo S60 as a kind of, you know, potential possible. They might have thought about it if it was to go down the route of the sort of modified road cars. All the vehicles were built by me to be fairly balanced. They ended up being around low S-Class, slightly different PIs to get the cars to be similar in terms of lap time. Each car putting out around the 500 horsepower mark. Now, power-wise, this actually puts them pretty damn close to the current DTM cars. However, the downside and difficulty as ever with building these is I can't make the cars light enough. Ideally, I wouldn't be running 500 horsepower. Ideally, I'd be running closer to 350, 400. But I can, A, not restrict the power on cars like the Giulia, for example, that come with an awful lot of power, and B, I cannot make these cars light enough. Really, everything here, with a couple of exceptions. I think the BMW was about £2,800. Everything else was over 3,000. So they are a little bit heavier than I would ideally like. However, at the end of it, I was fairly happy with all of the cars. They're all pretty nice vehicles to drive. Audi was most difficult to build to get it balanced. Sometimes swapping all-wheel drive cars for rear-wheel drive. They were all made rear-wheel drive for this. I know back in the 90s, Alfa did run a four-wheel drive, the 155 and so on, but for this I opted to go for all rear-wheel drive. So to test them out, we would head to the Nürburgring GP circuit. After a qualifying session, an Audi would be on pole, BMW in second, and Mercedes was third. Unfortunately, Ghost Mercedes doesn't show up on the replay. An Audi would come fourth, the lone Alfa Romeo up in fifth, followed by the Kia Stinger, another Mercedes, followed by a ghostly BMW. Down there, Kia Stinger, another Audi. The Audis were a popular choice of car, pretty good all-round car. Volvo a little further down the field, the Volvo mighty down the straights, a little bit of a handful through the corners, a couple more BMWs. I had a terrible qualifying, couldn't get a lap together. I found myself starting down in 11th, 12th place. Another Audi, Mercedes, another ghostly Mercedes with an Audi at the back of the pack. So, yeah, I apologise if the car's not quite showing up on the replay, but off the line, it was a fantastic launch from the Alfa Romeo. Perhaps one of the fastest starting cars in this field as we head down towards the first corner. The RS5 would keep hold of its lead. The silver Audi would get hung out to dry a little bit on that outside line, putting the Alfa Romeo up into a third place. The black Mercedes was following this little group. The Audi has a big dive up towards the next corner. Alfa Romeo's got to leave a little bit of space through there as the RS5 is looking for a place, and it is a great pass from the Audi. That's inside of the first part of that corner to the outside for the second part, manages to sweep around the outside of the Alfa to put himself up into a third place. The Alfa drops to fourth, but still a good start nonetheless for the Alfa Romeo. Further back, it was, well, as manic as you would expect touring car racing to be. One of the Kias had not had a particularly amazing start and was starting to get a little bit swamped by, well, just about everything. It was also very busy for us further back. Kia battling with the Mercedes, the Audis to the outside, heading down towards the hairpin. The Volvo's trying to get involved in all of this. Mercedes on that outside line gets a little bit of a wiggle across the curb, keeps it all together as we head up towards the S's for the first time. You really don't want to be on the outside up through the S's. The Kia realising that and ducking back into line. Further back, we were also all trying to fit too wide through the S's before panicking and changing our mind. The Volvo was having a sniff at the inside of the Audi. Kia's got himself to the inside of the Mercedes. Everybody's all stacked up through here as some off-track exploration goes on. Further back, the Kia's going to finally get the move completed on that Mercedes. In fact, very nearly opens the door for the Volvo. The Volvo got the move done on that Audi. Mercedes is defensive across there as everyone's flying through, shot up towards the chicane for the first time. Mercedes does give himself across to the inside, keeps hold of the position on the Volvo. The Volvo continues battling with the Audi. Back towards the front of the field, the Alfa was not giving up on that third place. In fact, as they came off of the chicane, the Alfa got a good run up towards the final corner, with the Giulia being promoted up into third. The Giulia having the straight line speed to get the position. Now, the BMW M4s were very good through the corners. In fact, they were the best handling car here. However, they lacked a bit in terms of straight line speed. The Giulia actually didn't get in position to have a big dive, couldn't quite stop it in time into the first corner, and ending up getting fronts and rears of cars connected, and no one can steer in all of that. Both of them running a bit wide. BMW recovers better. The Kia is now promoted to a third position, although now he's got sights set perhaps on finding a way past that Audi as we head through this next slow section, but is a little bit too far back. For me, I had a bad qualifying and a terrible start, got boxed out and dumped to the very back of the field. However, I was attached to the train of cars, if you like, and with an RS5 going for a little bit of an explore across a gravel trap, I was happy to say thank you very much and jump myself up a position. I was really liking my M4. It did struggle a little bit in terms of straight line speed, and perhaps what made the M4 most difficult to deal with is when you're in traffic. You couldn't really make the most of its strengths, and then you get left by everything when you got to the straights. The M4 ahead of us got a little bit, actually, kind of a little too close to the Audi. Coming up the S's, had to lift off and then was slow at the top of the hill, and both me and another RS5 slightly swamped it, although the Audi ran out of grip on the outside of the circuit. I then had a mega run heading down this back straight, going to go too wide through the kink up towards the chicane, although I'm going to be stuck trying to go the long way round. I didn't worry too much about that. I know the grip I had in my M4, and I knew how good the brakes were as we jump into the chicane. So around the outside for the first part, to the inside for the second part, and having been stuck down at the back for the opening couple of laps, I'd finally managed to make some progress. The BMW and Audi got together, which got the Golf car through the middle of all of them, and he got two passes in one corner. Back towards the front, and while the lead pair were having a relatively calm, relatively sensible time of it, it was third place where all of the action would go on. The BMW versus Kia. I know not the age-old traditional DTM battle, however, I mean, I could imagine it. I could imagine the Kia Stinger running in this sort of a championship, and they were putting up a good fight. As I said, BMWs did lack a little bit in the straight line speed department. By the time it got to the end of the straight, the Kia was always right there. And then by the time it got to the twisty section, the BMW would be able to pull away. The BMW could brake later, much later, than the likes of the Kia, but it had to be careful. It had to be far enough away when it got to a straight that the Kia wasn't able to attack. This time, the Stinger was nice and fast through those opening few corners. Does get himself to the inside, just cannot carry the speed that the M4 does, and the M4 will be to the inside for the next turn. If he can keep his car there, he can stay on the inside as they run down towards the hairpin, and it's a tall order going around the outside of the hairpin, let alone when you're up against probably the best handling car on the field. The Kia gives it a go, runs in a little bit too deep though, just about gets away with not ending up in the gravel, but he's not going to find a way past like that. As I said, at the front, things were actually relatively lonely for the two RS5s. The pole sitter managed to make a little bit of a breakaway on the early kind of couple of laps as everyone was fighting amongst themselves, built himself a nice little lead. Second place, the grey Audi managed to make his way up into that position after those first laps, and just lap times are so very similar between the two cars. No one was really catching, no one was really able to do too much. So for the victory, it was a bit quiet. For just about everywhere else in the field, it wasn't a bit quiet. It wasn't a bit quiet at all. A couple of the lone oddballs, the Alfa Giulia and the Volvo, they were going to battle here down the back straight. The Alfa perhaps one of the fastest overall cars in all honesty with this. The Volvo mighty quick down the straights, but not the easiest to get through the corners. They went side by side through the kink. I'm pretty sure the Giulia had a wheel on the grass on the exit of that corner, got away with it, holds on to it as they fight side by side through the chicane, and now up towards the final corner. They're still door to door, and all of this is helping. All of this is helping the two Mercedes that are behind them. I mean, the more you fight like this, the more you cost each other time. You know, you're taking wonky lines. The Volvo has to go very well. The Alfa goes aggressive across the track. Volvo goes very, very defensive down towards the first corner. Alfa run very deep under brakes. However, you can sometimes get away with that. If you can get a good enough exit, you'll be on the inside for turn 2, and sure enough, that's what the Giulia manages to make out. I felt for sure that Alfa was going to be long gone into the braking zone, but it manages to just get it stopped and just get the power down in time. And in the space of, you know, 4 or 5 corners of battling, Mercedes have come to join this group. The Volvo gets a very good run off of the corner, but there's not really anywhere to go. Gives the Alfa a little bit of a tap. The Alfa's sideways, but recovers it. And now, helping out that Alfa Romeo are the two Mercedes. They're starting to give the Volvo trouble. The Volvo's now got to defend from these guys. Can't quite go full-on attack against the Giulia. In fact, the Mercedes gets a great run on the outside down towards the hairpin, but again, can't quite match that Volvo in terms of straight line speed. It's that long way around on the outside. Mercedes gives it a good go, but just cannot quite carry the speed through all of that. And as I said, that's all helped the Alfa Romeo. Just managed to break free on the battle. The Volvo gets a very, very good run up of the hill as well. For me, well, we were fighting over 11th place with my BMW coming under increasing fire from an RS5, and I was determined to try and make this outside line at the hairpin somehow just about stick, and if any car could make it work, it was probably going to be one of the M4s. And just about did it as well. It admittedly did rely on me being on the inside when we got to the top of the hill through the S's, but just about managed to hold on, that's probably the better English. Unfortunately, again, this was another battle that was not particularly helping us, as I was, you know, vehemently defending. The Audi was, you know, trying to find a way past. We're both taking wonky lines. BMW M4 behind us, and another one of the Audis caught up to this group, and we were just losing complete touch with everybody up ahead of us, because we were costing probably 2 to 3 seconds a lap easily with some of this fighting, if not a little bit more, when you were having to go extra defensive or extra aggressive in terms of trying to get an overtake done. So it didn't really help us in terms of progress forward through the field, but it was a damn fun race in all of that. Third place? Well, that was still an ongoing battle between the two Kias. It had now become both of the Kias and the BMW M4. Every time we got to a straight, the Kias would run away. Every time we got to a corners, the M4 would reel them back in or try and find, or successfully find ways past. It ebbed and flowed plenty in all of this, and it probably was one of the more exciting battles, and it was a near race-long battle between these guys as well. the BMW never quite able to get far enough away when it got to the straights. However, it would then always be able to close that gap back in or find ways past when it got to the corners, because it was so very quick. This was the first time the white Kia had actually led through this section. You can see just the gap the BMW can make up, the pressure the BMW can put the Kias under as soon as it got to those corners. The gap it's pulled to the black car that was, sniffing right behind it through 2 or 3 quarters ago. In the end, it is the white Kia that just pushes it that little bit too hard, trying desperately to fend off under intense pressure from the BMW, ends up with a wheel on the sand, and that's not exactly where he wants to be. Now the BMW's just got to try and fend off from, well, the black Kia again for another few laps. The white car actually gets away with a trip to the gravel relatively well, all things considered. You normally end up losing a lot more time. So BMW's got himself to the front of the group. He's still got a Kia, just a different one now, following him through the next few corners, or the Stinger's very nearly getting into trouble with one another. Eventually I would run out of speed and the Golf Audi would find a way past. A few silly little errors from me would and also lose touch to the back of the Audi. Thankfully, the 2 RS5s would now start battling over this 10th position as they clonk their way side by side through the chicane. They're both incredibly slow off of the corners, and I managed to put my BMW into the middle of a big Audi group. I don't know how I'd managed to end up fighting 3 Audis with my one M4. I think the other BMW that had been with me just made a little mistake and dropped back from this group. It was, yeah, trying to find ways of not losing myself too much time while being stuck in this group as we head down towards the first corners. All the Audis a little bit wide. I'm trying to carry speed. There's just nowhere to go. We're going 3 wide up towards turn 2. That's not going to work. The grey Audi suddenly is alongside me looking for a way past as well, and I can't make the most of the BMW's strengths through all of this. Still, the Audis are looking for a way past one another. I try to get involved but can't carry the speed because there's too much metal ahead. I think I probably gave the Golf car a little bit of an assistance bump through all of that. Either way, he certainly got a good run down this next straight, but not quite going to be able to have a look up the inside there. Your next best spot down towards the hairpin. The Nürburgring GP track, a racing here, not too bad of a circuit for finding overtaking positions around. You've got plenty of a nice clear-cut spots and a few slightly riskier positions. A good run down towards the hairpin would be what the Golf Audi needed. To the inside, I think a slight little bit of a laggy bump puts the white car sideways, almost got me up alongside that Audi as well. I thought there was an opportunity I tried to take. I just didn't have the speed up the hill to capitalise it. I would have to fall back into line. And back towards the front, and the great BMW Kia battle was still ongoing. Lap after lap, it's the same thing time and time again. The BMW would fend them all off until the start of the lap, or sort of start-finish straight, and suddenly the Kia would come flying back down towards turn 1. And the more that these guys fought, the more it brought the Alfa Romeo back into the equation. You can see the green car in the background. The Volvo and Mercedes were not actually that far away either as these guys continued to squabble over that 3rd position. The Kia's got an opportunity up the inside, but it cannot take the corner speed. It can't quite carry that speed necessary to find a way back past the BMW, and a slide from the Stinger won't help it out. The BMW's got to run as far away as it can through these next few corners, try and get that gap before they get to the hairpin. The Stinger's still right there, but not quite able to make a move stick. And while all the excitement was going on further back at the front, it continued to be a, well, fairly uneventful hot lap session almost for the top 2. The RS5s were a very, very good car. They were a good car, they were a solid car, stayed out of trouble, and as I said, once they got to the lead, setting very similar lap times between the pair of them, but running in largely clean air. It is it's very, very nice having that clean air. Yeah, good qualifying will certainly help you out with this, and it would be a 1-2 for the Audis. No mistakes from these guys. Yeah, not having to worry too much about the great Kia train that was busy trying to find ways past would see them into 1st and 2nd. 3rd, that would go right down to the wire. In fact, you can see in the background how much this whole group of cars was closing up in the later stages. The BMW desperately trying to hold on from that Kia. The Stinger got a lot of speed down the back straight. He's going to have to, though, look to the outside towards the chicane, and the BMW so good under brakes. The Stinger's not going to find a way through there. The M4 needs to be quick off of that corner and does get in front of the Stinger towards the final turn. Defend as much as he can into this last corner. Make the Stinger try and fight the long way round. BMW keeps hold of the position further back. The Alfa Romeo gets a mega run out the final corner, managing to leapfrog the second of the Stingers. The Kia's got all of the speed, though, as they head down towards the finish line. It was a remarkably close finish between the two cars. In fact, so close we have to go to a photo finish. There is annoyingly no line on Nürburgring circuit to measure it with, but as best as I can tell, it would go to the Kia. Only just, though. If the start-finish line had been a few metres back, it would probably have been a different story. BMW fended off those Kias valiantly. In the end, just by a nose, it would be the Stinger that would get onto the podium. That wasn't even the only photo finish of this race. While one of the Mercedes would be unfortunate, lag spike would send them spiralling around. The Volvo was coming under, well, made a little mistake, I think, into the chicane, was a little bit wide. The Mercedes spotted an opportunity as the drag race down the start-finish straight would go on once more. The Volvo all out of shape coming out of the final corner. It was a mighty fast car down the straight. The Mercedes, though, pretty much matched it, and it was another very close one. There's further slightly weird lag bumps since the Mercedes spiralling off into the gravel trap. But another very close finish between the pair of them. This one would go the way of the Mercedes. Kind of surprised, actually, when I saw that kind of drag race forming on the run to the line. I thought the Volvo was very fast down the straight. The only way to kind of make it balanced. But it did go the way of the Mercedes. It was two photo finishes in one race. Not bad going. Not bad going at all. And unfortunately for me, I was kind of a fair way back from all of this. I had a lot of fun with these. It worked, yeah, really rather well. I would say if I was to do more racing with these, I'd perhaps tweak the cars a little bit. The Alfa probably was the fastest car overall. Got a little bit unlucky in the race, but overall, certainly over different circuits, the Alfa is very quick, and the BMW would perhaps want a little bit of a power bump. While, like, lap time wise, the BMW could match, hell, it qualified second. It could match the other cars. I'd perhaps build it slightly differently, give it a bit of a power increase, maybe take away a little bit of grip, because it just got monstered down the straight. And if you were stuck in traffic, you really struggled to extract any pace, because you couldn't go quick through the corners because there were cars in your way, and then everything ate you when it came to the straights. But for a one-off race, this was, yeah, really rather good fun. I love this kind of racing. I always have done, and seeing these kind of modern selection of cars going racing in an alternative DTM setting, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it looks great as well with all of the, a mixture of classic and modern sort of DTM liveries on the cars. It's a fantastic looking series, sounded great, and was, huge amounts of fun to go racing with. But there we go. That is going to be it for this video. If you do actually want to have a go with any of these cars, the tunes can be found on my storefront, so you can download them, have a play about with them yourself, do some racing with them. They are good fun. They are good fun to drive. That'll be it from me, though. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.